Customers come and customers go. But you have to ask yourself, do you know which customers are coming? And more importantly, which ones are going? And do you care? If not, you should. And that's coming up next on Marc Haine Live. Welcome back to Marc Haine Live, where small business owners and entrepreneurs pick up core skill sets to help them work on their business, not just in their business. I'm your host, service expert, and master of experiences, Marc Haine, and today our topic is customer turnover. Last week, we talked about the costs associated with labor turnover and what you could do about it. Today, I want to talk about what customer turnover is doing to your business. And we'll get to that right in a moment. But for the moment, I would like to say that I'm glad that you chose to spend some time with me here today. If you've subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for your support. You're a superstar. I look forward to bringing you some fresh content each and every week. If you haven't yet subscribed, that's okay. I know that, some people need to dip their toes in a little bit, right, before they fully take the plunge. But just so you know, I don't want you to miss an episode. So when you're ready, go ahead, click the subscribe button. I'd love to be one of those people you call a friend. Like always, if you find this information valuable, please go ahead and click the thumbs up button down below and share this video with people you think can benefit from the content. And please do take a minute to let me know what you think of today's episode. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'd love to see it in the comment box. I think that in business, there should be a commandment. And the number one commandment is know thy customer. And you're probably looking at me and saying, but Marc, I know my customers. And that might be the case. But if you, like the majority of business owners today, your knowledge, and I really hate to say this, but your knowledge is probably based more on assumptions than actual facts. So today, I'd like to know from you our question of the day. Right. So when was the last time you gathered information about your customers? What kind of information was it? I'd love to hear some of your experiences. Put them down in the comment box below. How do you gather that kind of information? I was recently consulting with a grocery retailer who was so frustrated by the weekly fluctuations of his business. The operator felt that people came in just for the specials and that the competitors down the street was stealing his customers. He compensated the best he could by he puts more things on sale, and the prevalent retail theory is that if they come in for the lost leader, they might come in when they're picking up the lost leader, pick up higher margin items while they're in the store. When I asked, why aren't you the retailer of choice for your customers? He was dumbfounded. He had never thought about his business in those terms. He was always looking at his business as being in competition with the other retailer. He adopted the us versus them mentality instead of us and them mentality. But he was so certain that he knew his customers. He was positive that he knew who they were and what they needed from him. But once we took a deep dive into his business, we found that he was right. The brunt of his volumes came from his on-sale items. They were attractive. When he did his specials, they were attractive, but he had no loyalty. He had the, oh, peanut butter's on sale this week. Those kind of people. And once we got to the root of the problem, we uncovered, among other things, that customers thought that his personnel were unapproachable. There seemed to not be a great working relationship on site with the people who worked there and some of the customers. And some of the customers actually recounted stories of staff verbally abusing each other while they were on shift in front of customers and also being snarky to their customers. Now, I did talk about strife in the workplace, and please do check out the video. The link will pop up here. But there were some other issues with their deli counter and the produce section that came up through our investigation, but staff behavior was by far the biggest turnoff for their customers. And so once we were able to address that, then we started being able to see some changes. Now, you may be watching this and thinking, but Mark, I know my customers. And maybe you do. But the surveys tell us that if you do, you are in a very, very small minority. Studies upon studies show that we are woefully misinformed about our customers. And the smaller the business, the more we rely on what we think rather than what we know. But here's some numbers for you to consider. In retail, 77% of retailers don't know their clients' preferred means of communication. That is how their customers prefer to be talked to. Only 16%, that's 1.6 people out of 10, know what incentives appeal to their customer base. Less than 30% of businesses know what their customer retention rate is and what revenue they lost by not keeping those customers. 1 third, that's 3 out of 10 retailers understand that. The rest don't know it. And even more shockingly, only 12% of respondents know why people go to their competition, and only 41% know who their valuable clients are. And that's 4 out of 10. So today, I'd like to provide some tools to maybe give you a hand up in being able to wrap your head around this. It's important. It's really important to be able to understand the context of why customers shop there and why they don't. But before we get into that, I just wanted to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by my new book, Lights, Camera, Action. It is going to be released probably in the beginning of November, but it tears down what it takes to put on a great show for your customers, no matter what business you're in. And to get notifications when this book is released, please go to marchaine.com, Lights, Camera, Action, the tab on top, and click the Coming Soon button. The link is down below, so you can just fast track it and just click the button down below. But put your name on the list. I'd love to have you so that you are one of the very first people to get my book. So in chapter 19 of the book, I introduce the theory of lifetime customer value. And I have to say, I feel that most businesses get it all wrong. When they speak to lifetime customer value, they talk within the confines of lifetime customer spend. And I believe that two are drastically different. Now, what is the difference? Okay, let's lifetime customer spend. So you have one customer. In doing business with that one customer, what is the lifetime spend of that customer that's at your till right now? A customer, so the best way to define it is a customer comes to your business and spends X amount of dollars. And they do that with a certain frequency. Say, if you're a grocery store, maybe they do it weekly. And they do this over a number of years. And so you can actually do the math. There's natural attrition that takes place whereby they move away or unfortunately they pass away. But more times though, they choose away, which means they choose to go somewhere else for whatever reason, right? With some key data, you can calculate exactly what the customer lifetime spend is. How I define customer value, lifetime customer value though, is a little bit different. Like we know, so we just talked about, we know that each customer has the lifetime spend, but what we fail to consider is the value of the customer's influence. Think about that for a second. We have a customer who spends money in our store, but then they have an influence that affects our business. Pretty heavy, eh? Every person who comes into our business has influence over their circle of friends and their family. When you do things really great, they tell people. When they feel slighted, they tell even more people. And as I outlined in an episode talking about responding to bad reviews, again, the link is going to be here, their scope of influence can be absolutely huge, and what they post online can be absolutely brutal. So if you lose that one customer, what else do you lose? With the proper data, you can know the lifetime customer value. But for now, it's just really important that you know that it exists, that this is an amazing, powerful variable to your business. That when you look at a customer, you can look at that customer's spend over their course of lifetime, but then what is their value to you? What is their value if they are an ambassador to your business? Oops, I didn't even realize I had the wrong screen up. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. Anyway, they um, having understanding that when you look at your customer now, you can absolutely look at your customer and you can think, okay, here's the value. I see them here weekly. Their average check is X amount, and you can actually calculate the lifetime spend on it. So I hope this resonates with you, and I hope it makes sense. Please do drop a comment or a question in the box. I'd be more than happy to explore this a little bit deeper with you in the question in the comment box below. So the big question still remains: how do I understand who my customer is? If you're affiliated with a big brand, you already have some great data. Like if they have a loyalty program, you more than ever have you know they're your consumers. You know they're being tracked and your consumers are being profiled. So you should be able to get some really key demographics and spend information from your data. I mean, I know that on some of my loyalty cards, they target me with certain ads so that I'm attracted back to the location. So if they have that, they also have the other information, as in where do I live, how old am I, basically what kind of stuff do I buy. But if you don't have a program in place, you've got some work to do. And so one of the suggestions I would make is I would strongly recommend that we think about strategies that really bring your customer to the forefront. We all talk about bringing or providing value to our customers. But what about exploring our values with customers? We all have a set of values that we operate by. And when they are incongruent with with the values of our customers, we lose those customers. When we don't live up to the expectation of those customers, we lose them. And it's that simple. And one of the best ways to determine customer values is to do something called empathy mapping. This is where we plot our customers' personas to better understand their values, their drivers, their pains, and what they hope to gain. We explore each of our personas as to what they think and feel, right? What are their major preoccupations? What are their worries? What are their aspirations? What's on their mind that is important to them? If we can understand that, that's a first step in understanding our persona. What do they hear? Like, how do they consume information? Do they have a TV set at home? Do they just consume information strictly from the internet? What do their people say? And by their people, I mean their coworkers, their boss, their family and friends. What is where do they get their sources of information? So that could also be interpreted as how do they get their biases, right? What do they say and do? That is, what is their forward-facing image? Like when they put themselves out into the public, what do they want people to believe about them? What is their behavior towards others? We talk endlessly in customer service about when you're interviewing people, if you interview them at a restaurant, you see how they treat the serving staff. And if they treat the serving staff poorly, then you could pretty much bank that they're not going to do a great deal for your customers, right? What do your customers see? What does their environment look like? Who do they socialize with? What attracts them? Are they the kind of people who are hanging around the rant and rave pages in your community? Are they the ones who are volunteering for Lions, for Rotary, for any of the service organizations? When we do empathy mapping, we also explore their pains. So what are their fears? What are their frustrations? And what are their obstacles that they're trying to get over? Right? And then from that, we take a look and say, what are their gains? What are they hoping to get out of it? What do they want, or what do they need? And what are the measures of success? Like how do they, when they have something, how do you know you've been successful with them? And then what obstacles do they need to overcome to create that success? This is, it looks complicated. The questions that you ask are really pretty in depth when you do this. And keep in mind that you're going to be doing this for more than one demographic, right? But through empathy mapping, we get a solid picture of what attracts them, what engages them, and what keeps them coming back to you. Through empathy mapping, we find out their values. Then, once we understand their values, then you can figure out, are they congruent with what we believe as an operator? I'm hoping that this makes sense. And if this is of value to you, I'm just checking for comments. So far, we don't have any comments. I hope this makes sense to you and is of value to you. Please feel free to give me a thumbs up and share your comments or your questions in the comment box below. I'm always looking for feedback because, if you think I'm full of beans, that's okay too. I'd love to hear what you think. And again, if you know somebody who could benefit from this information, please go ahead and share it. Post it with them, especially if maybe you're a customer for a retailer and you think, wow, they should know this stuff. But you see, once the empathy mapping is complete, you will now need to put together a strategy on how to meet and exceed their experience expectation. This is something that I do talk a lot about in the book. In fact, my very first chapter is called Experience Expectation, where we take a dive into finding out what it is that our customers expect when they come into our business. Once you're able to meet those experience expectations, well, then you can start building now that the conversation that people are having is in your favor. But once the empathy map is complete, you will have clarity on how to reach your customers and how to speak to them. You will understand the language that they're using so that you can use their language. And again, this is a really big topic, but if you concentrate on speaking to people based on their values, you will connect more deeply if you share those values with them. Now, keep in mind, you will need to profile more than one customer. If you're a grocery retailer, I suggest that you map seniors in your market, working professionals, so a working professional maybe with almost independent teenagers and young families as a starting point. But again, only if this fits your market. You need to take a look at what your market, what kind of business you have, and what market you are going to be supporting. And if you can do that, the clarity that provides you is going to be insane. And I promise you, it is absolutely insane. I just have to put Anna's comment up on the thing. Anna, thank you so much. I'm glad that this is providing some value to you. I'm hoping it's making sense. I know that every business is unique and your community is unique. You and your staff will be the best judge of the top 3 demographics you should map out to start with. And the reason why I say you can't just do one, because we have different components we have different demographics in our business. And so in order to be able to summarize and figure out, how do I push my marketing dollars? How do I train my staff? What are some of the things I should look out for? These all play into the demographics. In that one particular retailer that I worked with, one of the things that they track how quickly the cashiers move lines. And when I talk with the cashiers, their biggest frustration is the fact that they get so many seniors on certain types of days, especially on the senior discount days. And when the seniors come up to the line, they start creating small talk with the cashiers, and the cashiers get slowed down. And so the one question I asked the manager is, do you judge solely based on the speed of your cashiers? Right? Because what's more important? Is it speed more important than them taking the time with their customers, or is their customers more important than the speed? And so this is something you need to measure yourself. And then last thing, once you have the data, walk a mile in their moccasins, in the moccasins of your customers. Nothing provides clarity more than seeing the world through their eyes. If you have shoppers in a retail environment that they need to get in, get out, what are the obstacles to make that happen? What things are getting in the way? What red tape is happening? If you own a registry office and you have clients who are coming in to do tax payments or whatever the thing is, are there any obstacles to your demographic, to the personas that really hinder whether or not they want to come back to your location? And sometimes it means getting a secret shopper, somebody who's got no bias towards your business whatsoever. They walk in with a complete blank slate and they walk through your business as a first time customer. They can be candid and they can be honest about what they see and what they feel spending money in your business. Putting your customers at the center of your organization's strategy has never been more important. We see it time and time again, not only in small communities where there could be competition, like in this one particular grocer's market, but now we're competing against the internet. We're competing against the likes of Amazon and individual people who are selling through Etsy and all this sort of stuff. There's never been more selection at people's fingertips than there is right now. So then it begs the question, what can you do that Amazon can't? And the bottom line is, it's how you make them feel. It is how you make people want to relate to your business. It's turning your people into loyal fans. But you need to build a detailed picture of who your customers are. Oh, thank you, Anna. Oh, that's great. I look forward to when it gets released. Um, Achieving the type of understanding that reveals the specific values, behavior, needs, and the experience expectations of your customer is nearly impossible without taking the time and the energy to fully understand them. But once you do, it'll cost you less to attract them and you'll keep them for longer while converting them to your raving fans. This is a short episode today. That's all the information I have for you today. Why don't you give me a thumbs up if this was of value to you? I appreciate everybody who is coming in and giving me the thumbs up. And as always, my offer stands. If you would like 30 minutes of my time to brainstorm your business with you and your team, please feel free to book yourself on my online calendar down below. It's the link that says meetme.so/Marc Haine. It's a way maybe that I can help you brainstorm some of this stuff. And, this idea of empathy mapping, this idea of going through your personas, there is a process to do it effectively. And, again, more than happy to be of service to you. And if you haven't done so yet, why don't you hit the subscribe button? If you haven't done that, ring the bell. That'll give you first dibs whenever I bring you some content that will help you work on your business, not just in your business. My name is Marc Haine. I hope that you stay safe, stay healthy, and dare to be the exception.